Prejudice.
Prejudice refers to the opinions or attitudes that assume superiority and inferiority based on real or assumed differences. There are two different types of prejudice found most often in societies: stereotyping and scapegoating.
Generalizing a group of characteristics and applying them to all members of a social category is called stereotyping. Stereotyping is one form of prejudice.
Take race, for instance. Some people just will not accept others because of the color of their skin. It doesn't matter how many smart, nice, honorable, and interesting people they meet who are of a different race. Some just don't see past skin color. People may be prejudged because of race or even ethnicity, gender, or religion.
Stereotyping has some pretty serious effects attached to it. Here's a bite out of stereotypical reality. Many African Americans have been denied employment because of racist stereotypes which influence the hiring practice of personnel departments. A 1990 National Opinion Research Center survey found that 62% of whites believed that African Americans were less hardworking than themselves, and 53% felt that blacks were less intelligent.
Besides stereotyping, there is another form of prejudice called scapegoating.
Scapegoating is when blame is placed on a person or group for causing someone else's problems.
A second type of integration barrier is termed discrimination.
Discrimination refers to actual behavior that treats people differently on the basis of prejudicial ideas.
So prejudice is a belief, whereas discrimination is a behavior. Discrimination can be positive or negative for a group. If you do or don't like someone because of racial, ethnic, religious, or physical traits and decide to treat them with more or less respect than others, then you are being discriminatory. So discrimination can provide both disadvantages and advantages to certain social groups and individuals.
The first two barriers to integration, prejudice and discrimination, were on a more personal and individual level, or the micro level of interaction. However, the third barrier to integration is on the macro level of society. This is discrimination on an institutional level. A good example of this is institutionalized racism.
In America, as in other places across the globe, institutionalized racism refers to the routine operation of societal institutions which foster majority privilege. For example, some say that the standardized graduate school entrance exams, such as the LSAT, GRE, MCAT, and GMAT, are an example of institutionalized racism because they assume that all people taking the exam had equal access and opportunity to learn the skills and knowledge necessary to perform well on the standardized tests. Historically, disadvantaged social groups do not have the same chance to perform as well as more privileged social groups. This may be due to lack of opportunities or resources or even simple interpretations of ideas within the test, which is based on different cultural belief systems.
One way this issue has been dealt with is through affirmative action. You've read about it in the papers, you've heard about it on the 6 o'clock news. Yes, affirmative action is one attempt to correct institutional racism. In other words,
Those who support affirmative action believe it is about leveling the playing fields among advantaged and disadvantaged social groups and allowing minority group members opportunities they are ordinarily excluded from.
affirmative action seeks to allow all groups to have equal access to opportunities and resources regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, or religious affiliation.
We've covered some serious stuff so far, like the self, conformity, deviance, social control, stratification, and social inequality. These topics take up a large part of the sociologist's brain, but there's one more area of study in the field of sociology that we'd like to share with you. That topic is institutional spheres. Before we crack the seal on institutional spheres, though, we've got one thing to caution you about. Sociology is big, and this is an introductory review of sociology. So when we begin talking about subjects like families and the economy, remember, everything we tell you is just the tip of a gigantic academic iceberg.